This is not something that would have been up for debate 2 decades ago, and it is crazy.
Taylor Lorenz, the Trump admin censored Jimmy Kimmel, and they're not done.
That it feels like it is now. I don't know how we fix that.
Earlier, the BBC yanked Jimmy Kimmel's show off the air, and Nexstar Media Group dropped it from all of its stations across the country after the comedian joked about Charlie Kirk's killing. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr called the comments, quote, offensive and insensitive, and warned ABC and its parent company Disney that there could be regulatory consequences if the network didn't respond. This is a big deal because Nexstar, the company that owns all those local ABC affiliates, is trying to acquire Tegna, one of its main competitors. Brendan Carr and the FCC need to approve that merger. But these media companies don't think that will happen if they broadcast things that Brendan Carr and Donald Trump don't like.
What did Gay Lennon say? Wait, check my message before. Sorry to just pop in as a tax-dodging libertarian, but I'm hearing rumors in Nashville circles of Fuentes maybe doing something with the Daily Wire. I know Shapiro hates him, but I'm curious if anybody else in chat heard rumors. Please help out Gay Lennon. Do you know any rumors? I low-key doubt Daily Wire with Fuentes would be interesting. Fuentes is too Israel skeptic for all the wrong reasons. Thank you, Chris Borkowski. Welcome, Borkowski, brate mój. Polska Polaku. I don't know. I'm just stereotyping your last name, calling you Polish. But thank you very much, my friend.
All of this is a gross assault on free speech and free expression. And to talk about it, I have Ari Cohen, lead counsel for tech policy at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, or FIRE.
Also, if anybody's got a direct contact for this brilliant, that's an awful frame, I'm sorry. For this brilliant journalist, if you have a contact, a direct contact, don't post it in fucking chat. Please send it to one of my mods or try to reach out to me on Discord. I would really like to get Taylor onto the program. It's a bit difficult to find her OG contact. It's all linked to her website that I don't think goes directly to her. Anyways.
Lead counsel for tech policy at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, or FIRE. He's one of the leading First Amendment lawyers in the entire country. Ari, welcome.
Thanks for having me again.
All right, so first I want to explain to people kind of what's going on with this Jimmy Kimmel, Brendan Carr situation. Obviously, we know he was sort of pulled off the air indefinitely. Can you explain a little bit what Brendan Carr did here and why it's so dangerous?
Yeah, so on Monday, I believe it was, Jimmy Kimmel's monologue involved some stuff about the Charlie Kirk assassination, and one of the things he said was that he insinuated that the shooter might have been one of the MAGA crowd, which of course we know, at this point at least, to not be true. And the internet did what it did and went indiscriminately crazy, and people started calling for heads, and, you know, we live in very weird times. So enter Brendan Carr, what he does.
Yeah, but we also know that he's not a quote-unquote communist that was out there collecting right-wing scalps either. Which is also very important to note, because the first people that threw generalizations about who the assassin might be was the right. He's the king of the Antifa, okay? He's the second in charge of the Antifa. The CEO of Antifa is, of course, Hassan Piquer.
Basically says, well, that's a big problem because broadcast stations have to act in the public interest, and my version of the public interest is people not saying things that I don't like, which is basically what he's been saying for the past 8 months. And, you know, this is kind of the trend of the punishment in search of an infraction that Brendan Carr is going after here. And so he said, you know, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. He literally said that, which is something you would expect to hear out of a mob boss, not a government official. And, you know, insinuated that he would go after the ABC affiliates broadcast licensing and things like that. And within a matter of hours, ABC announced that it had indefinitely suspended Jimmy Kimmel, which is just a new record, perhaps an ignominious record in caving to the Trump administration's pressure.
Yeah, how unprecedented is it? Because I feel like we keep hearing these situations of like CBS, you know, settling this bogus defamation lawsuit basically as like a payout to Trump. Like it seems like Trump is increasingly like encroaching on the media's right to free expression. So where does this stand in the line of kind of like what's been happening?
The concept of a broadcaster or a network pulling a personality off the air after a controversy is not new, and it's not particularly novel or, noteworthy. It happens. What's unprecedented about this is the direct causal link that you can clearly see in between the government threats and ABC's actions. I mean, it usually doesn't happen that starkly, but like we were treated to a front row seat here in jawboning and government attempts to control content via regulatory threats. I mean, it was explicit and it was fast and it worked, and that just all adds up to a really shocking set of circumstances.
Yeah, it's so egregious and over the top. And like you said, even that line, like it's like parody level. You mentioned jawboning, and this is something that sort of keeps coming up. And I think people see this word around. For people that aren't familiar with the concept in the Supreme Court case and everything, like, can you explain what is jawboning and what role does it play?
Jawboning is the use of informal pressure rather than direct legal threats or, regulations or lawsuits to try to convince a speaker or social media platform or broadcaster, what have you, to not say certain things.
Oh shit, I forgot to hype the hype train. Very professional streamer you got here, chat.
Or to take
Still, thank you for the level 6.
down certain things or censor certain things. It is something that the right has had a lot of complaints about in recent years. They complained very loudly about how the Biden administration put pressure on social media platforms to take down certain information in the COVID era. And I think, generally speaking, complaining about government pressure against speech is a good thing. The problem is here is you have a very large contingent of the same people who are complaining about it now explicitly cheering it on. Hell, you even had Brendan Carr, who woke up on Valentine's Day of 2019 and tweeted about how the FCC should not be censoring content and ideas that it doesn't like, and now today is basically celebrating his threats having the exact effect what he wanted of taking somebody off the air.
Oh,
I mean, there's
wow.
always a tweet, right?
Yeah. Brendan Carr has just had like an insane...
Crazy. Right-wingers don't have any principles whatsoever. It's incredibly mind-blowing. Holy shit.
villain arc.
Again, pushing your attention away from simple state censorship of media, which has always happened directly or indirectly, over to a much more dangerous system of self-censorship of private media inside of a free market, because pushing further and further to the right as capitalist society goes into later and later stages is an active, unavoidable process which maintains private media as continuously giving a further and further right-wing ideologized pitch to their audience. Stupid capitalist governments like the current Republican one actively try to censor, utilizing the state apparatus to do so. It is stupid because you don't need to do this in capitalism. It's an idiotic thing to do in capitalism because private media will self-censor if it wants to maintain relevancy in a further and further and further right-wing oriented society. So they're just, they're just shooting themselves in the foot for no fucking reason. But whatever. Leave it to rightoids to be rightoids. Thank you, Mobius, for the fucking 10 months, you beautiful piece of shit. Thank you very much.
And I've seen all these people pulling his tweets from 2019, back when he seemed to have like principles, and comparing them to now. I mean, you mentioned like conservatives. This has sort of been something that conservatives constantly accused Democrats of doing, where they were like, as you said, like, oh, Biden pressured the social media companies to take down COVID information. Oh, they're censoring me for my anti-woke beliefs or whatever. Why is what Brendan Carr is doing with the FCC like kind of particularly insidious? Because I think for people that think of the FCC as just this general...
It's also stupid. They make them into basically like media martyrs and shit. Because in the American head, censorship is only an act committed by the state over particular private actors. Okay? Everything else, they don't see as censorship. They just see it as the market behaving like the market, which to an American is just a natural state of being. So when rightoids do this sort of shit, like what they're doing with the Jimmy Kimmel, they're just they're playing into Jimmy Kimmel and other people's hands. It is dumb. The Democrats, if I was a Dem, I would be popping fucking champagne right now. This is pure fucking gold for them.
regulatory body. It seems like he's really taken this like activist approach to kind of like what the FCC even does.
Yeah, and this is an approach that past FCCs have explicitly rejected. I mean, when you saw complaints against Fox News, people say that Fox News' fair and balanced slogan was a lie and that Fox affiliates should lose their licenses. The FCC consistently said, no, that's not what we do here. We don't adjudge the content of the broadcast, nor do we adjudge the veracity of a tagline of a network. I mean, preposterous, right? Except that's exactly what Brendan Carr is basically saying. I'm going to do all this. I'm going to use whatever I can. I'm going to say it's not the public interest to say things that I don't like. It's not the public interest, he said, for a radio station to broadcast where ICE raids are happening, even though that's public information and clearly constitutionally protected. His version of not in the public interest seems to align with his political views. And that's just not how the FCC is supposed to work. And he's really taken this to its extreme. And, he keeps making this excuse that, oh, well, I'm just playing by the rules the Democrats set. Well, I mean, first of all, no, you're doing a lot more. But
and also you're abandoning your entire pitch that a Republican is supposed to be far more principled than a Democrat, and the Democrats are these authoritarian freaks that want to utilize cancel culture, blah blah blah. This is something we never do over on our aisle, and now the pivot is. And the pivot is very it's basically stabbing your eyes out, which is how fucking obviously hypocritical it is. It's fucking cliche to even comment on. The coverage here is mostly going to be that type of stuff. Let's keep watching it for a second more, but I think we already covered almost everything that these two people are kind of analyzing here.
But second of all, if you are a person of principle,
they see the issue with Kimmel being taken off and speak out about it, but not an issue with deporting Mahmoud Khalil and won't even mention it. Of course, dude, of course.
well, that thought,
Because obviously media personalities are gonna and people in media are gonna react with greater intensity when it comes to this case than Mahmoud Khalil, because they're quote unquote coming for one of their own. They're coming for their paycheck, so they don't want to see that happening to them, and they're gonna pitch it. But when it comes to them self-censoring, because they always want to make more and more money, and they're constantly self-censoring by adjusting rhetoric. I mean, you've seen since come on, you're not fucking blind or deaf. Since Trump won last time, CNN has toned down their fucking anti-Trump rhetoric by 700%. Remember CNN during the first couple of months of the first fucking Trump presidency? That shit was like, oh my God, the world is going to collapse. This man is a little dictator. Holy fucking shit. He's a sexist, rapist, murderer. Blah, 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 blah. He's a, Russian agent, blah, 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 type shit. And now it's completely, quote unquote, normal coverage of him with some semblance of critique. That is market self-censorship. That is CNN realizing that America is a more and more and more right-wing country. And that the money is not going to be into the money is not going to flow into their pockets if they preach to a choir of left-wingers that no longer even exist in the country, at least from their perspective. And obviously they never pitch to the left, but let's say they pitch to the liberals. You know what I mean. I'm using troglodyte fucking terminology here, but you guys are smart.
should never cross your mind. I mean, that is a child's answer. It was done to me, and therefore it's okay for me to do it back, is the two wrongs don't make a right is the first thing we all learn as kids from our parents when we're 3 years old. And frankly, when you start going down that road when it comes to censorship, we end up in a really bad place, because that doesn't have a logical stopping point. And unless you think you're going to be in power forever, it's going to turn around and bite you on the way back. And, if you do think you're going to be in power forever, I have very, very bad news for you about the course of political history.
I want to talk about this most recent attack in the context of broader attacks. And I saw people like Chris Hayes and some of these other pundits tweeting like, this is the worst attack on speech that we've ever had, in democracy or something. And I think for people that have been paying attention, this is sort of just the latest in this progression of the erosion of our civil liberties. Can you talk about kind of, I guess, some of the other stuff that's going on amidst this that people might not be as aware of that's also threatening free expression?
I mean, just earlier this week, you had the Attorney General of the United States saying there's a difference between free speech and hate speech, and we're going to prosecute hate speech. I mean, that literally just happened a couple days ago. It feels like a month ago, but it was just a couple days ago. And then she tried to clean it up by saying, because of course that statement is completely bogus, she tried to clean it up by saying, oh, well, we're going to go after people who incite violence with hatred and whatnot, but then proceeded to give a very inaccurate, bar-lowering definition of what constitutes incitement. Just the clear tenor of all this is they want to make people afraid to say the things that they don't want them to say. This is an exercise in speech chilling, and it's all part of a pattern, from the FCC to the Attorney General to, Ed Martin back when he was doing whatever he was doing at the U.S. Attorney's Office, his mishigas. It's all part of a pattern to make people afraid to say the things that the administration doesn't want them to say. And it can work. And that's the problem with all this. Even if they don't do any of it, it's a huge problem, both because it chills speech and also because...
This is why actual so-called authoritarian regimes collapse. They have to pay off power blocks to maintain power. They become economically inefficient. Yes, it is inefficient to actively censor using your state apparatus, but not only inefficient, it is also fucking stupid, because in capitalism, private media, they will self-censor because they want to make more money. The profit motive will readjust them continuously. It's a fucking idiotic move. It's always like a low-key terrifying when we'll analyze this stuff from a left-wing perspective and realize that we could make far more efficient agents of the capitalist status quo than rightoids can at any moment in time. They're fully populated by grifters, mostly grifters, let's be honest here, and the true ideological believers, because of the content of right-wing thought, are just fucking idiots, because you have to be an absolute cretin, like a total cretin, to believe any of this shit. So are we winning? No, that's exactly that's what I was going to pivot to, my friend. Welcome to the community. That's the biggest criticism I have towards all of us, is that we are losing to these absolute fucking cretins. It says a lot about them whenever they make a bad move after a bad move after a bad move, but it also says a lot about us that are, at least in the Western Hemisphere, which I'm not a part of, but still, when it comes to being on Twitch, I guess they to an extent are, that we're losing to the world's biggest losers. What does it make you when you lose to the world's biggest losers? I don't know what it makes you. It makes you the Western left, I guess. But we learn, we adapt, we organize, and we grow.
Because it fundamentally undermines First Amendment principles. It weakens them in people's minds, and
we also don't stop the ideological enemy as they're making mistakes.
Happens, it's much easier for people to act, for government actors to act on these.
As unhinged as what I'm about to say sounds, it is true. Them doing this to such a public persona like Jimmy Kimmel is very good. Okay? It is very good. I'm not saying that censorship is good. I'm saying the way they are going about this, the way they are standing in front of everyone with their underwear down, when they literally don't have to do it in order to prolong their program, is good, because to the normies, this is insane. To the normies, is like, Jimmy, you coming after my favorite guy that I watch with a microwave dinner every Sunday or Friday. When does this guy stream? When does this guy... There you go, fucking online pilled. When does this guy show go on? American television. Do Americans still watch television? You get my point. They're making themselves look absolutely unhinged in front of American normies that only identify censorship as the government doing stuff to public figures. Weeknights. Thank you, my friend. So it's great that they're doing this. This is fantastic. I am willing to sacrifice Jimmy Kimmel at the altar of American right-wingers looking unhinged and stupid.
Censoring.
Unless he comes and starts streaming on Twitch, then he's taking food out of my mouth. Especially Western taxpayers, okay? Come on, we only had 3 fucking Western taxpayers today. Only 3. 20 gift subs for Western taxpayers, 10 gift subs for Western taxpayers that happen to be ethnic minorities. I want my tax money. Tax. Or the Twitch taxman is going to knock on your door.
Feeling.
I want at least 5 today. I need 2 more Westerners paying their taxes.
And impetuses. Like, it's just a really, really bad thing to do, culturally speaking. It's going to take us to a bad place, and you already see this dramatic flip of people who spent a lot of time claiming to be, free speech advocates.
And that was such a strong fucking right-wing pitch. Was it true? Of course it wasn't true. But them being like free speech absolutists, them doing the whole cancel culture is the biggest enemy of national American security pitch, blah, blah, blah. That shit worked so fucking well. And they are not low-key, they are high-key abandoning that pitch. They will look silly in front of the normies if they use that pitch again after doing this. So yeah, I hope they crack down harder. I hope they do more of this when it comes to mainstream figures and so on. Because the mainstream figures are going to be okay. Jimmy Kimmel's just going to come back to ABC, or he's going to go somewhere else. He's not going to fucking suffer. Probably more people are going to tune back in just as a sign of protest against the Republicans. But one thing this will do is it will take away this very, very strong, false, but still very, very strong right-wing pitch, which is, we are against cancel culture. No, not the cancel culture. Western white man taxes, Troll Sama. It is whites in general, okay? Here we don't. I do a bit. Thank you for the sub. I do a bit where to pay full taxes, Westerners have to pay 20. Everybody west of Berlin, 20 gift subs. Western minorities have to do 10. And everybody from the developing world, which is everything except the United States, Canada, Australia, and Western Europe, only has to pay 5. Just to prove a point, yes, as a grifting mechanism to increase my shit, but also to prove a point. Cuphead Social, guys, can we please fix the tax thingy? It should just, how I'm explaining it right now, when you put exclamation point tax, my beautiful mods, it should just be 3 sentences explaining it. Because the image, thank you for assisting Cuphead, but the image is wrong. The image does not depict who should pay how much properly, because the 10 gifted is very weird. Why the fuck do the Mexicans owe me 5? Brazilians owe me 5. Russians owe me 5. Type shit, I love how these guys are red. That's so funny.
Who are now literally celebrating censorship. It's not even
It shows a map. Yeah, exactly. Yes, my friend. That's what I'm trying to tell the mods to fix. It should not show the map, okay? And it's a bit. Don't take it too seriously, except when paying your goddamn taxes, okay?
They're
Indigenous Americans tend to. You got me by the balls there. I have no idea. No, I guess. No. Fuck, no, you got me by the... Yeah. Oof. No. No, you know why? Because indigenous Americans have their own nations. As oppressed and segregated as they are inside of the wider United States structure, okay? They are still their own nations, and they are third world nations, okay? So no, Native Americans 5.
celebrating outright. And
See how I saved myself there? You really got me in a twist there, motherfucker. That was good. So 5.
it's troubling to see.
I mean, so many of these people, like the people that you're talking about celebrating censorship, a lot of them will say the Brendan Carr answer of like, well, it happened to us. But they point to things like Alex Jones getting deplatformed or Trump getting kicked off Twitter or like these sort of like content moderation decisions, right? That like they feel were so egregious and so unjust. And I am sympathetic too to some of the stuff, like some stuff, I mean, I covered all of the sort of like disinformation concerns and like there was very legitimate, I think, concern there for some of them. So like how much credence do you give those sort of original concerns that they had? And like how much wrong did they suffer under the Democrats really?
I mean, I think that every administration steps in it on free speech necessarily, and everyone feels like a victim of it, and everyone also has a free speech butt. It's very easy to excuse censorship when the speech is something you don't like. All those things work together to kind of create this cavalier attitude towards what's going on, but we really need to not have that attitude. We need to be on guard. We need to be worried about this, because even if you like the direction it's going now, you're not going to like the direction it's going forever. And once that power exists, it never goes away. It metastasizes. It grows. It morphs. I mean, that is just a fact. We can see that throughout history. So, I think there have been legitimate free speech concerns from Democratic administrations. And I think sometimes, people are right to feel like maybe they were victims of censorship. And I feel for them. But the answer to
the plot twist here is that everybody at some point was a victim of censorship. So you cannot utilize it as an argument to do something against someone else. It's like most people, unfortunately, have been victims of violence at some point. You don't get to use that as an argument for you to enact violence upon someone else. Why do I even have to say this sentence? This is so obvious. What the fuck?
That is not to commit censorship of your own. I mean, that is the worst possible thing you could do, because that just means that it's going to double back on you again. You are shooting yourself in the foot when you do that.
One thing, and we've talked about this before, that I think
this is a very simple, like it's a simple analysis. Mine, I believe, not to toot my own horn, but it's a bit more complex. When right-wingers do state-sanctioned censorship, they're fucking stupid, because private media in the market actively sells censors as a way to cater to a larger and larger right-wing audience, which grows as capitalism enters its later stages, destabilizes, and creates more divided, ideologically divided parts of the population. But why don't they then start catering to the left-wing radicals? Because you cannot be a private media agitating against capitalism and the private ownership of media. They can't do that. At like large private media that is not grassroots like this Twitch stream, grassroots funded like this Twitch stream, cannot pitch for its own abolition. It's counterthetical to its existence.
That the Democrats and Republicans seem completely aligned on is censorship of the internet. Like, I feel like censorship of mainstream media, maybe the Democrats are more against, but then you have Kathy Hochul introducing some other insane age verification types bill, and Democrats in Congress talking about repealing Section 230. So can you talk a little bit about, like, on the tech side, where you see things going? Because I feel like we see actually quite a lot of bipartisan support for internet censorship.
Yeah, when there's bipartisan support for anything, it should make you think twice about whether it's a good idea. But, the thing that has struck me in the past week since Charlie Kirk was shot is the adoption of this, this idea, this frame that social media is the cause of this because it radicalizes people. You had the New York Times, for crying out loud, write a piece where they bemoaned that social media platforms hadn't found a way to keep people from being influenced by speech, which is the entire point of speech. It's just bizarre. People are grasping for something to blame. But you know what? I look at the Republicans taking this mantle up now and I say, okay, well, that's not going to work out so well, because you have these lawsuits saying that the Buffalo Top shooting and the Dylan Roof shooting in Carolina, those people were radicalized by racist speech on social media platforms. And therefore, everything that might be racist or radicalizing towards, racism must be taken off social media platforms. And that's going to involve a lot of, things that they might think shouldn't be taken down. And you have Democrats now facing the reality, after having called for this for a while, where people are saying, literally a congressman said the other day, I'm not making this up, we need to prevent trans people from speaking to each other. We need to get them off the internet. Like, he literally said...
Dude, they're designating them as a special extremist category just for being trans. If a trans person commits a crime and they happen to be a trans, they're immediately analyzed in a different way than they would analyze a cis person.
that, right?
Literally 2002 anti-Muslim regulations post fucking 9/11 just apply to trans people.
Ronnie Jackson. First of all, that is a just dark thing to say about any group of people, that we should keep them from speaking to each other. But that shows where this goes. I mean, when you talk about the concept of radicalization, like...
Will the collapse of Western economies make fascism less or more appealing? It would both make fascism and leftist theory more appealing. That's the whole point. As a particular system starts to crumble, you have pretty much more and more people realize that alternatives are necessary. Fascism is the continuation of the status quo. LARPing as an alternative, okay, is the same, just with more violence. And, you know, Marxist or anarchist analysis is an actual solution to it. So yes, in moments of great crisis, people have to pick one of the two, right? But one should not agitate for, you know, accelerationism or whatever, because that's not usually how it works. At least historically, it's not how it works. Usually it's very unstable, then libs and reformists try to stabilize it, and then both fascists and actual revolutionaries point at the libs trying to stabilize it and go like, oh, look, it's not stable, bro. And then they fight it out, and whoever wins ends up co-opting the instability and instituting a alternative method of governance of economy, of society, etc., etc. So to an extent, revolution is the co-opting of massive strife after attempts to pacify said strife go unanswered. At least that has been historically, right? Alternatives I'm very open to seeing in the future, hopefully more peaceful ones. Thank you, Risinton, for that sub, baby. Welcome to the community, my friend. And thank you, Rottertraum, for some rakia money. Hvala, brate. Thank you very, very much. I will have one in your name later tonight. Thank you very much. Also, all of you who subscribe are contributing to my wedding budget, which apparently is 100 to 120 euros per person without counting music, which fuck my life. That is a crazy amount of money.
What does that mean, really? That just means people being convinced of an idea you don't like.
Well, yeah. I'm just curious, just to hop in, like, what do you make of this sort of bipartisan support for this? They're hauling all these people in front of Congress. They're bringing the CEO of Twitch, Reddit, Steam, and Discord, which is crazy because I don't think Twitch was even involved in the, you know, there's no Twitch angle to this shooting. It seems like this excuse to push a censorship crusade.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is just, it's the basis for the dog and pony show that they're going to have. And that's what these hearings are. Not serious. They're not meant to actually get to any solutions or answers. What they're meant for is for either A, members of Congress to berate the tech companies, or B, for them to ask people they already agree with to say the things that they already agree with. It's not good faith. And, you know, what are they going to do? They're going to ask Twitch or Discord, like, why aren't you taking down speech that makes people hate Charlie Kirk? Like, that is none of Congress's business. They have no business caring about that, let alone browbeating tech companies just because they think the people saw things uncomplimentary of Charlie Kirk and then one person shot him. I mean, like, come on, let's be serious.
It's absurd. I mean, no normal person would think that, but it seems so.
Thank you, Debo, very much for paying your taxes. Thank you very, very, very much.
Like, that belief actually seems so pervasive in the traditional media. Like, you mentioned that insane New York Times story. Like, I've seen other insane framing. A lot of people, also these mainstream journalists, going on talking about these dangerous algorithms and we need to eliminate algorithms. And
there's not even any evidence.
Fucking lib bullshit, bro.
Evidence algorithms had anything to do with any of this. That the New York Times piece complained about algorithms, but then the only thing it said was that the shooter talked to people on the internet, which doesn't really implicate.
Yeah, there's whole, like, I love democracy now, but check this out. Like, I mean, I'm literally being a fucking zoomer here, judging the whole video based on the title, but I can't be fucked. Wait, where is it? How video games, Discord, and deep web influenced alleged Kirk shooter. How does Discord influence a thing?
More direction or topic and some more niche focus. Groups of friends, like the one that it looks a huge messaging platform, especially for young people.
Right, she's talking about Discord. There we go.
It operates similarly to Slack if you use Slack at all. So there's options to create a server, which is what your company would use, and then separate little channels divided into topics. So a Discord channel.
Watch the video. It's not quite as the title makes it sound. Okay, I hope, because it's like, oh my God, these kids, they got them Discords on the internet, and they can go on the Discords and they can post crazy things. And a guy can be like, yo, I want to shoot my mama. And then another guy is like, yeah, shoot your mama. We should stop Discord from making kids shoot their mama.
Algorithm, like, nobody is.
Because when Kitten doesn't let me tell her goodnight, it becomes everyone's problem. What the fuck are you talking about, Barry? What the hell? What the hell, my guy? I should vet your fucking ads more. The tax we threaten should be very high. It's a negotiation with the capitalist. When the rich beg to pay taxes, and we should be fined. Yeah, I mean, it's the taxes are the riot tax. You pay a little bit of your money back into society, or we do very fucked up shit to you. Is basically the pitch. Clearly, people see photos of cute pets in the relevant part of the Discord channel, and the cute aggression spikes, and suddenly we have shootings.
Any idea what they're talking about? They're looking for something to blame because this is a senseless killing and nobody really can grasp it. And I get it. I get searching for something to blame, but like, this
is not a senseless killing. This is a type of killing that has been happening in the United States of America and internationally since the fucking birth of politics. If you dedicate your life pitching particular political ideas, there are going to be people that feel threatened by the political ideas, and for this or that reason will want you dead. Is that okay? Do we advocate for that here on the channel? Of course we don't. But are we mind blown that left-wing or right-wing talking heads get killed? That's fucking wild. No, we're not mind blown. That is how the planet works.
Let's be adults about this and really kind of slow our roll here. Because, I mean, the things that have been coming out of people's mouths are crazy.
Oh, Jon Stewart put out a whole video about, these dangerous algorithms and social media, like putting people down. I think it's terrifying because it funnels this anger that people have towards, a really dark political campaign that's aimed on censorship.
Exactly. Fuck, man. Taylor, I need you on the D program like yesterday.
I mean, just in terms of like what can happen, look at what happened with TikTok and the news that we got this week that we're going to have some like America version of TikTok, like run by Larry Ellison and Andreessen Horowitz and, who has a terrible track record on speech as well. And I mean, look, TikTok was banned itself over speech, as Warner and Gallagher said at the Munich Security Conference last year, that it was the pro-Palestinian speech on the app that allowed them to get that ban passed through Congress.
We should ban mouths. Azan, no joke. Very good parallel to kind of the argument that it's these digital platforms that cause all of this and not the actual people on those platforms agitating for particular political ideas. It's so stupid. It is fucking idiotic. It is so boomer pilled.
So it seems like, I don't know, they were able to do it with TikTok. Could they do it for every one of these social media apps?
Well, they're certainly not going to stop trying. I'll say that. But it's kind of absurd. We just saw that news about TikTok, and it's now, almost a year later, and they came into the Supreme Court saying this is an urgent national security concern. And I mean, maybe my definition of urgent isn't completely aligned with theirs, but I don't think urgency is like 9 months from now when it comes to national security. So, I do hope the next time the government claims that the courts aren't so credulous.
Yeah, it's shocking to me that the courts fell for this obviously bad faith argument.
Well, they fall for it every single time.
Yeah, you just put the word
Then
national.
they pretend that they didn't.
Yeah, it's infuriating. Another thing that seems to be sort of something that they're cracking down on is content creators. And I've seen a lot of people be like, oh well, Jimmy Kimmel can just launch a YouTube show or whatever. But it seems like it's harder and harder, and they're really targeting content creators as well. I'm wondering if that's something that you've followed at all, and how you think that new form of independent media might be even more. I feel like there's even more vulnerability if you're an independent content creator to some of these sort of pressure campaigns.
There certainly can be more.
Yeah, like like liberal analysts of what causes political violence being like digital media platforms. You know what they're agitating for? They're agitating for Diogenes, okay? We must all live in a barrel by ourselves and interact with nothing, okay? Wash once every 3 months. It is human to human interaction, be it IRL or offline, be it IRL or online, that causes problems in society, okay? The liberal analysts have fully embraced the anti-grass touching pill, okay? They are anti-grill pill to the fucking core, bro. How dare you take away my soup bowl? Behold, a man! Guys, please just install one more spyware. If we have more oversight, we'll achieve tech utopia. I absolutely promise, tech bros. Discord killed Charlie Kirk. I can see it like top 10 victims of Discord, and number 1 is Charlie Kirk, or top 10 fountains, and then it's just like 9 very nice fountains. Okay, top 10 fountains around the world. There you go. It's like all like just like fountains, and then number 1 is just a picture of Charlie Kirk. That was, yeah.
Vulnerability, because if you get a letter from Congress, it's a much scarier thing if you're an independent creator. You don't, like, they try to haul you in front of Congress, and maybe they will, maybe they won't, but like, that's a scary thing for some person just making, videos in their house. These media companies,
that would be really like fucked up edgy videos, right? But it would be free speech, low key.
Have budgets, they have lawyers, they can stand up for themselves. When you start realizing that you're playing with fire because powerful people are going to get upset at you if you say the wrong thing, and you're just a solo, I mean, most people are going to say, well, that's not worth it. I don't need that heat. Why am I going to put myself...
Don't fed post, chat. I love you. Don't fed post.
...through that. And that's exactly the problem we need to avoid, because that's the speech chilling effect of all of this. That is how we end up with a neutered public discourse out of fear.
It seems like there's not a lot of people. I mean, you've brought this up several times, as like, try to think of how these laws will be used by the worst people that like if they were in charge, how would they use them? I mean, aside from fire, like what organizations are fighting back, and what effective strategies have you seen in terms of countering this mass like censorship campaign?
I mean, listen, I have held on to hope that we could kind of turn this around on a cultural level, but I don't, this is, like, we're in a dark place right now. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, we have people cheering on censorship, and we have people delighting in censorship. They are using it as a weapon of retribution, and they are happy about it. So I don't know what you do with that. I think we have to go through the courts. We have to try and mount any legal challenges and defenses that we can, but people really need to come back to earth on this. It's like, it is scary how far off the ground people have gotten about this. I mean, it's worse than I've ever seen it before in my entire career. And, there are tons of groups from, all over the political spectrum, and, whether they're focusing on, civics or democracy or technology. There are tons of organizations that are perturbed by this and trying to do what they can, but it's going to take attitude changes from the general public, because civil society...
It will, but it is to an extent inadvertent. As particular political movements take a bigger and bigger piece of the so-called proverbial pie of government of a particular country, and as a country pivots, like it is the case of the United States, further and further right, unfortunately, the inevitable eventuality is the complete and wholesale censorship of all left-wing progressive thought. The stupid thing that the Republicans are doing is speed running that by intervening as a state in manners of media. If they play it long term, media will self-censor because it's private and it's in the pursuit of capital, of profit. But no, they're speed running it, so to an extent they're playing right into quote-unquote our hands. So let them do it. Let them do it. The normies are going to freak the fuck out. The American normie is going to freak the fuck out about this, and that's low-key good.
Society can't just make people understand the shit. We need the come to Jesus moment for American society when it comes to what kind of country we want to live in, what freedoms we want to have. Like, this is not something that would have been up for debate 2 decades ago, and it is crazy that it feels like it is now. I don't know how we fix that.
I know. I think it's bleak. I think people need to recognize that, like, all of these assaults on free speech are connected. Like, I think so many in the media are horrified at Jimmy Kimmel being removed, but they're not horrified about the entire internet being censored, TikTok being banned, and the overturning of Section 230 and COSA and all this.
You were just explaining manufacturing consent. Very good point, Cuphead Socialist. To an extent, I am. To an extent, I am. But they are abandoning, at least it looks like, they are abandoning proven consent manufacturing methodology because they want to score some quick points. Like, consent manufacturing has been working so fucking well for the American establishment, for empire, for everything. By doing this, they're making it obvious that they will stop at nothing to protect the current, status quo. So it's fucking stupid. It's fucking dumb. They're just desperate. No. This is their, like, victory parade, my friend. It's the opposite of desperate. They're cocky. They're cocky, and also they're, like, politically illiterate. They're not smart heads of power. Smart heads of state, sorry. It's just that, like, you have such a fucking good setup, bro. Like, for example, the United States of America becoming a one-party capitalist system. That would be fucking imbecilic. You already got all of them eating from your hand, thinking they're living in the world's greatest democracy. Blah, blah, blah. We debate things. We have elections. They're legitimate. Like, that's the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot. You got them thinking they have free media that is giving them objective opinions, that there is such a thing as an objective journalist. Why ruin that for yourself? You dumb motherfuckers, like the dumb motherfuckers. That's why I'm, with great restraint, saying this is low-key a relatively okay-ish thing. Because don't interrupt your opponent when they're making a mistake. No joke. Because that's to an extent what differentiates, like, our particular stream than many of the other ones, because many other, and that is very necessary, creators in this space and so on are talking about what the direct consequence of this will be on everyday people and so on, which is very important. We try and look at the greater overarching strategy at play here for the upkeep of the status quo versus the destruction of the status quo. Long term. Our analysis here tries to be as long term as possible, and we try to zoom out as much as possible. And that's what it's looking like.
Other stuff. And I that to me is really frustrating.
They can't be this naive. The ground is shifting under their feet. If you're a left-wing accelerationist, this is a fucking wet dream. you'd be surprised how dumb the enemy can be sometimes, and how much it's led by pure ego and doing it because you can do it. But while they are relatively naive, I think they genuinely believe there is greater energy behind completely taking over the country than there actually is currently. What I'm trying to say is the American right really believes this could be a victory moment. This could be the first brick in the very large wall they want to build around their current political position. But there isn't. There isn't. At least not yet. How many milligrams in your Zins? It's a 3. It's 10 milligrams per Zin. This one is 10 milligrams.
Because I think that...
Do you approve, my friend? Am I toof enough for you? Is this toof in the Balkans? Every day, the Democrats come out and say we found shit in sour pants, and we are hearing the Trump shit in our pants. So we are writing a certain letter telling Trump it's illegal to shit in other people's pants. It's actually the president's shit. It's comfortable, soft. It smells great, actually. Thank you for this hopeful perspective. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, let's see. Absolutely. I believe it. I'm not just coping. I try to stay away from cope as much as possible. Fortunately, people like Hassan, or to a different degree myself, could end up being the sacrificial lambs in this massive fumble that the American right is currently initiating. So long term, it's a massive fumble to actively utilize the state apparatus to censor, because you're abandoning already established consent manufacturing methodology for something that is far less efficient. Okay, long term it's a fumble, but short term they might end up banning motherfuckers like me from this shit. They might make Twitch quote unquote apolitical, a gamer's paradise. As we all know, games are never political. Right? Which is unfortunate. But hey, if we get this number to be as high as possible, it might dissuade Twitch from sacrificing talking heads that they might disagree with, but talking heads that nonetheless make them some money. And you know how private enterprises work. They never want to lose money. So the more subs it says right here, or in Hassan's stream, or anyone else's that is, pitching this ideology, the less they are likely to throw us out with the bathwater, as they say. So make line go up. Thank you, Doron Doritos, for 14 months, you absolute fucking king. Or queen, or MB. I don't think it's a fumble in that they don't expect to ever lose another election again. And the surveillance drug net they're installing will allow them to cancel people faster than public opinion shifts. Meanwhile, the algorithms are always in their favor in pushing propaganda. That's the gamble, right, my friend? Are they actually going to not lose an election ever again? Right? They expect not to, but will they? And one can make an argument that by abandoning traditional consent manufacturing methodology for this proactive one, they are playing against their potential victory in the coming quarter. But then again, leave it to Democrats to learn all the worst lessons out of this whole scenario, and being like, okay, they think they can take cancel culture away from us. Motherfucker, I cancel culture back when you were in diapers. So it's a gamble. It's a bet. I am putting my money on them literally, showing their cards in a poker game far too early. That's my pitch. What I'm trying to tell you, my friend. But let's see.
Power of speech on the internet is actually almost bigger than the mainstream media. And it's even, I wouldn't say more important, but it's certainly just as important.
Key factor at play here is obviously the fucking internet. No matter how much they got us in very small rooms, on very large platforms, we are centralized as fuck, which is always a bad thing on the internet. We still shout really fucking loud, and we still point out these inadequate acts of censorship, which ends up reaching the ears and eyes of a lot of normies, who are what matters the most at the end of the day when it comes to the American political game, which ends up dissuading them from their active support of said, in this case, Republicans, because herder censorship scary. But they are not dealing with a broken capital allocation system that is starving the empire from real power. They can't even beat the Houthis anymore. Absolutely. This is not Cold War America anymore, ladies, gentlemen, and NBs. This is the type of action that failing empires play into, okay? When do you start abandoning proven methods of control? When you think they are no longer working. Why would you think they are no longer working? Come on, you're smart people. Because you see line going down when it comes to long-term stability of your imperial project. So you start changing things up, and you start changing everything up. And as you're starting to change everything up, you end up changing a lot of the shit that worked really well up until then to keep you in power, which then makes line go down even faster. And then usually leads to war, which is fucked up.
Important
late stage capitalism, absolutely. That is why using the word late stage is not, as some Marxists like to say, intellectual masturbation, mumbo jumbo. No, it is very important, especially when contextualized properly. What does late stage to an extent mean? It means that capitalism is reaching points of contradiction that are so high that both the capitalist state and everybody else pretty much is trying to find more and more radical solutions that would keep capitalism afloat. They're no longer only using traditionally proven methodology. That's why it's different than stable or whatever capitalism. Or don't get me started on, early capitalism, which often is, it's still capitalism, it's still exploitative, but on average is, okay for most people, Everybody gets a house, gets a picket fence, of course, except the minorities, but, that's very different than late-stage capitalism.
Not more important to protect.
Well, that might be a reason why they're not so worried about it. It's nice to be the gatekeeper, right?
One thing that I hear a lot from liberals who I've tried to talk to about this subject that are, I don't know if they would describe themselves as pro-censorship, but they'll say a lot of things of like, well, we do need speech restrictions and, we do need to cut hate speech and you shouldn't be allowed to say hate speech. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about just like the concept of hate speech, because you see this now like being weaponized by conservatives as well, where like anybody that isn't sufficiently sort of mourning Charlie Kirk is accused of hate speech or something. Like,
it's like North Korea.
It's insane. But can you kind of like describe like what are the rules around hate speech as they stand, and why is it important to protect
this very American thing that is happening specifically in America in a way that is very, very, very American? It's like another country.
maybe things
Who has the meme? Come on. The meme. Post right here. I want the meme. The specific meme. Americans when something very American is happening in America. Come on. I want the link. I want them. Suffocation is so fucking fast. There you go. Still, respect to this gentleman. Not all of us are gonna be whatever. Don't worry. American exceptionalism is deep in every person's soul. Okay, especially the American soul. American sees something American happening Americanly in America. What are we, a bunch of Asians? This could have been retweeted. Okay, was the person. American see something American happening Americanly in America. What are we, got him some fucking Asians who look like a fucking Asian?
things that people would consider hate speech.
Yeah, I mean, hate speech isn't a legal category of speech. Like, it is speech just like any other speech. And the reason why that is so is look around you. The person sitting in the seat gets to decide what's hateful. 2 days ago, we saw Donald Trump respond to a question about Pam Bondi's hate speech missive by telling an ABC reporter, oh, maybe she'll go after you. You treat me unfairly. It's hateful. You have hate in your hearts. Like, for him, unflattering coverage is hate speech. I mean, this is just the best object lesson in why we don't have hate speech laws that anyone could possibly dream up. I really hoped that we wouldn't have to do this to understand it, but, here we are. And the malleability of what is hateful and what is hate speech will, in every single circumstance, always be used to silence dissent. That is not something that can be debated. It is something that has been proven time after time after time in every situation. There's just no way to give the people in
every sociological definition, if we can call this, for example, sociological definition, can be kidnapped by a political movement and utilized to prop itself up against its political enemies. This is what we term the ideologization of everything. So, yeah.
Power, the ability to restrict hateful speech without them using it for their own purposes. It's human, all too human. So, just...
It's not human, it's systems. It's systems. You can use a hammer to make a house. You can use a hammer to break somebody's head in. You can use AI to help society. You can use AI to take away artistic jobs or whatever, right? Like, never look at particular definitions, tools, or whatever, technology, or even sociological definitions as good or as bad. They are tools, and everything can be corrupted, unfortunately.
Look around you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think actually a lot of pro-Palestine sort of voices and activists learn this lesson the hard way. I think that they have seen that sort of censorship and maybe hopefully have opened their eyes a little bit more to this issue. I'm wondering, also just where things stand on some of...
My dear colleague from the Deprogram, which, by the way, massive love towards them, 200 episodes is absolutely crazy. So proud. So fucking proud. Listen to the 200 episode. If you're on Patreon, if not, listen to it on the next week. I think it's a really good episode. It's like a retrospective episode. But yeah, he literally immediately got kicked out of Nebula, for example. And there was I don't want to say how much percentage, but a very, very sizable part of his income. Just because of his, pro-Palestinian attitudes. It's absurd.
These more congressional state laws. I don't know if you've been following the age verification. I've been talking about the rollout of the Online Safety Act in the UK. You're such an expert in these tech laws. What's the landscape like currently for some of these censorship laws domestically?
I mean, we're kind of seeing how things can go haywire in Europe right now. It's like we are now witnessing, we have a front row seat to what our future is if we go down this road. And it's baffling that our politicians will sit there and criticize.
Are you talking about the UK, the country that is not actually in the EU?
Europe for their tech laws and for their anti-free speech positions when they are sitting here proposing the same damn things domestically. It is just, I don't know if it's a lack of self-awareness or just dishonesty. I can't tell what it is anymore. Now that Free Speech Coalition...
It is, they don't give a shit, my friend. That is what it is.
versus Paxton was decided, and apparently we can require age verification for pornography based on species legal arguments, people are emboldened. States are now trying to argue that that means that we can do it for social media too. You can be forced to hand over your driver's license to have a social media account as well. We are fighting against that.
U.S. upcoming age verification. Yeah, I know, but I don't. If that passes, that's gonna be so fucked up.
But it's like they are.
And chat control is being argued about as well. Fucking Eurocucks, holy fucking shit.
They are emboldened. They're trying to swing for the fences and, get whatever they can out of this. And, it's particularly chilling when you consider how dissent is being, pursued by this administration, to imagine that, we might lose the ability to speak anonymously on social media. It's just a really bad place that we're headed towards if we don't turn things around. You have COSA and the blockbuster AI lawsuit.
Yeah, I would immediately have to give, my fucking ID to Twitch. My full ID. No, Twitch knows my full ID. No, on Twitch you have to give your full ID. Twitch knows my full ID.
Which threaten to put wind under those
But I hope I don't have to give it to the fucking audience. That would be fucking absurd.
particular wings, even if they aren't particularly.
Yugopnik face reveal, also address reveal, Instagram, Facebook reveal. Yugopnik dick reveal because of EU laws. Prove that you are the real Yugopnik. Show us your pee-pee.
Related, but
next to old photos of you with your pee-pee. But sir, I don't have old photos with me and my pee-pee.
people see, oh my God, it's something on the internet and a kid gets hurt, so let's just do something about kid safety generally. And that's how you end up with terrible laws like COSA probably, that have more possibility of passage than they might have otherwise. We are in a state of panic. We are looking for things to panic about. Human beings love to panic. That is, we are very good at it. And we like to blame things, and we like to shove all of our, rational long-term thinking to the side so we can feel better about having done something. And if we do that right now, we're going to end up with some real bad stuff.
I think that censorship is obviously, it's so rarely sold to the public as overt censorship. Trump is being as overt as possible, but it's scary to see these people, especially these liberals online, that are oh, so against censorship, we against censorship, but they still buy into this moral panic about social media, and they still buy into this idea that you listen to the wrong person on the internet. And
all of a sudden you're racist.
Yeah, right. I don't know how to break that or kind of make people understand that that is delusional and you have fallen for this crazy moral panic that is ultimately the guise for all of this censorship.
Yeah, I don't know if people are amenable to being convinced that it's not the case, but what can be pointed out to them is that the people who are in power right now literally think that people become trans because they read things about trans people. That is where this goes.
And then they want to shoot people.
They will say,
unironically,
oh, it's either radicalization or it is
being trans is de facto radical, according to unironic new American legislature.
Leading kids to harmful behaviors, and therefore we must stop this speech or cut.
Which is it can be turned into a base thing, yo, being trans is fucking radical, dude. Dude, being trans is so fucking radical, dude. But yeah.
Cut kids off from this speech, or maybe even cut adults off from this speech. If you are willing to accept that the government should be able to do this for one category of speech, there is literally no reason why it cannot be done for categories of speech that you don't want it to happen for. That's the point. The power exists, and it will be used, and it will morph.
Yes, I think that's so important, because I think a lot of people would like that to be used to oh, anti-radicalization, whatever. But I mean, that the conspiracy about trans people is something that Jonathan Haidt himself promoted on PBS last year or the year before, which is depressing. He's sort of one of the main architects of a lot of this moral panic, I would argue. All right, Ari, well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, that's it for this week's show. If you want to support me and my show and the work I do, please support me on Patreon via the link below. You can also buy a paid subscription to my tech and online culture newsletter, usermag.co. That's usermag.co, where I write about all of these issues and more. If you're listening to this show on a podcast platform,
we will all go together when we go. What a comforting fact that is to know. Universal bereavement.